Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. So in today's video, we are going to build a simple classic ping pong game using Python library. So I'll walk you through the code line by line and explain what happens. So let's get started. First, I'm going to install the Pygame library. So let's open the terminal and type in pip install pygame. So this imports the pygame module. Now let's start coding. So I'm going to import the necessary libraries. So Pygame is for the game development and SYS is for system specific parameters and functions, and random is going to used for random generating random numbers. And next I'm going to initialize the Pygame. Pygame dot init. So this sets up all the Pygame modules for use. Now let's set up the game window. I'm going to define two constants called width and height to be 800 and 600. So this sets the width of the game window to 800 pixels and height to 600 pixels. So using capital letters for this height and width is conventional in Python to indicate that these are constants and that shouldn't be changed during the game. And then let's create the screen game window. For this I'm going to create screen equal to pygame dot display set mode, pass in the width and height. Next I have pygame dot display dot set caption. Okay, so here this line basically creates the game window. So pygame.display.set mode is a pygame function that initializes a window or screen for display. It takes in the tuple width and height as argument, which sets the size of the window. So this function returns a surface object representing the entire screen, which is stored into the variable called screen. And next we have the pygame.set display.set caption. So this line sets the title or the caption of the game window. This is also a pygame function that sets the caption, and we can set it to the string known pygame. It can be any name you want to give to the game window. Next, let's define the colors. So I'm using white and black as for this color definition. So we'll be using white and black for drawing our game objects. Next, I'm going to set up the game object. So one is paddle and the other one is ball. So the paddle is actually set using two variables, which is the paddle height and width. So let me use paddle height and width set as 100 and 10 and 100. So this defines the paddle height width to 10 and paddle height to 100, determining the paddle's length and the position. So we are using capital similar to the height and width to make this as a constant. Next we set the paddle speed to be 5. So this sets the speed at which the paddles can move. Paddles are nothing but this the kind of object that is going to hit the ball and it's going to keep moving. So we set the speed of this to 5, which means this will move 5 pixels per frame when the movement key is pressed. Next, let's set up the ball size. For that I'm using the another variable called ball size setting that to 20. So this defines the size of the ball, and the ball will be using 20 cross 20 pixel square, which will be drawn as a circle later. Next we have the speed of the ball in the x and y. So x and y. So basically this x is setting the horizontal speed of the ball. So here we are using random.choice, which randomly picks between 1 and -1, and multiplying by 5 makes the ball moves 5 pixel per frame. So that's what we are trying to do in the x, in the horizontal speed as well as in the vertical speed. So vertical speed is also set using ball speed underscore y equal to 5 times the random choice between 1 and -1. And next let's create the game objects. For that we have to create the first paddle for the left player. So for that I am going to create paddle1 variable. So it's using pygame.rectangle. So this is basically nothing but we have this function. So the function takes in 10. So this is the x coordinate. It positions the paddle take 10 pixels from the left edge of the screen. Next we have height modulo 2 minus the paddle height modulo 2. So this calculates the y coordinates. So height modulo 2, it first finds the vertical center of the screen, and paddle height modulo 2 is the half the height of the paddle. Then by subtracting these we get the center of the vertical paddle. Then we pass in the width and the height as we defined it earlier. Next for paddle 2 I do the same, but I position the second paddle to be like 20 pixels from the right edge. So by doing that, so width minus 20, so it's the same height, paddle height, and pass in the paddle width and height. So that's for the paddle 2. Next let's define the ball. So for that we are going to create similar pygame.rect. So the width by 2 and ball size by 2. So this centers the ball horizontally. So first the width by 2 is finds the horizontal center of the screen, and it's subtracted by the ball's width, ensuring it is centered it's centered, and then this creates the position for the ball. Next let's go to the scoring section. For that I'm going to create score 1 set to 0, score 2 set to 0. So basically this initializes the score for player 1 and player 2 to 0. And then I have font equal to pygame.font to be none. So here what I do is this defines the font object, and it can be used to render the text in the Pygame. So the first argument here over is none. So by passing none we are setting the default system font and the size to be a bit bigger. So I'm setting it to 74. It's quite large, so it can be visible. And then let's do the game loop. Now for that I'm going to set running equal to true. So this initializes a boolean variable running to true. So this variable will control whether the game continues running or not. While running, so this starts a while loop that will continue as long as running is true. So this is the main game loop where all the game logic and drawing and event handling is done. So here to handle events, so first I have for event in pygame dot event dot get if event dot type equal to pygame dot quit, then set running to false. So for the event in Pygame, this line basically starts the loop that iterates through all events that have occurred since the last frame. Pygame.event.get returns the list of all pending events, and then we check another if. For inside this we have a if loop to a if condition. This checks the current event is quit event. So if the quit event is true, then the user is trying to quit the game window. So we set the running to false. Now this will cause the main loop to exit after the current iteration is done eventually, which is closing the game. Next, let's explain the paddle movement in the Pong game. Now we will have so for that I go into get keys for the paddle movement. So getting keys, so I'm going to assign some keys for player 1 and player 2. So for that, first I have keys dot get pressed. So I'm writing it inside the while. So this sentence line gets the current state of the all keyboard buttons. So when key dot get pressed returns a boolean value representing whether the key pressed is true or false. Then I have to go into a if condition to check if the player, so the paddle 1, I assign the key for the paddle 1. It checks if W, the key W in the keypad is pressed. So and the paddle, this ensures the paddle doesn't move above the screen. So I place it as paddle 1 dot top greater than 0. Then I go and assign my paddle 1 dot y. So this paddle 1 dot y is minus the paddle speed, which means this moves the paddle up by subtracting from its y coordinate. And the second if loop is for the key pressed, which is S, which means I want to move towards the, so if keys dot pygame dot k underscore s and paddle 1 dot bottom is lesser than height, then I assign the paddle 1 dot y plus equal to paddle speed. So here the second if statement does the same for the S key, moving the paddle down, and paddle 1 dot bottom ensures the paddle doesn't move below the screen. The first is for checking whether the paddle is going above the screen, doesn't move above the screen, and the second if to check whether it does move below the screen. Next, let's define the same for the second paddle. Copy paste the same. So I'm using different keys for the paddle 2, which is up and down arrows. So for that I replace paddle 1 with paddle 2 for the same condition. So it works similarly to paddle 1, but it uses up and down arrow keys instead, and the same boundary checks are applied to keep the paddle 2 on the screen. Now let's do the ball movement. For that I'm going to create the ball movement. So ball dot x is equal to ball speed x, ball dot y plus equal to ball speed y. So here this updates the ball's horizontal position. If ball speed x is positive, then the ball moves right. If it's negative, then it moves left. Similarly for y, it is to update the ball's vertical position and x is for horizontal position. So when y is positive, the ball moves down. If it is negative, then it moves up. So it's just the vice versa. Next we will create the collision with bottom and top walls. So collision control. So here if ball dot top greater than equal to 0 or ball dot bottom greater than equal to height, then update ball speed y equal to -1. So what it does here is when ball dot top is greater than equal to 0, this checks if the ball has reached or gone past the top of the screen, and this condition ball dot bottom greater than height checks if the ball has reached or gone past the bottom of the screen. Then it updates the y speed, which means the vertical position. If this condition is true, then this reverses the vertical direction of the ball by multiplying its vertical speed by -1. So it basically reverses. And then now let's do for collision with paddles. So if ball dot collie direct paddle 1 or ball dot collie direct paddle 2, then ball speed x times -1. So this first thing is ball dot collie direct pass in the paddle 1. So this checks if the ball is colliding with the left paddle, or checks with the ball if the ball is colliding with the right paddle. If that's true, then if the ball collides with either paddle, it reverses the direction in the horizontal direction of the ball. It reverses by multiplying it with -1. Now let's go to define the scoring. So for scoring, now for scoring, I have some logic for this. Now first I have if ball dot left is greater than equal to 0, score 2 added to 1, then ball dot x comma ball dot y set to width minus ball size comma height minus ball size. And now we have ball speed x times random dot choice between 1 comma -1, then ball speed y also random dot choice So first, this condition checks if the ball has reached or passed the left edge of the screen. So if that is true, then I'm going to increase the score for the player 2, typically the right paddle. And then So similarly, I have the ball dot x comma ball dot y. So here this line is basically resets the ball position to center. So this is to find the center coordinates, and it's subtracted with the ball size. It's to ensure that the ball is centered again. And then we are randomizing the ball direction using random dot choice. Next I do the same for the width for player 2. So if the ball dot height is greater than the width, then I see that this should be the condition when player score increases for player 1. So this checks if the ball has reached or passed the right edge of the screen. So it has to typically increase the score for player 1. And then for this ball dot x, ball dot y will find the center position. Then we again place the ball in the center, and then we randomize the movement. Next, let's draw the display. So for drawing, we use screen dot fill black pygame dot draw rectangle screen white paddle 1 so this should be rect. Then we have the screen white paddle 2. Okay, then we have pygame dot draw ellipse screen white ball pygame dot draw dot a line screen comma white comma width So here first I am going to fill the screen with black. So this fills the entire screen, effectively clearing the previous frame. Next these two are to draw the paddles as white rectangles on screen, and then we draw the ball as a white ellipse which appears as a circle if the ball's width and height are equal size. And then we draw the AA line is for anti-aliased white line down the center of the screen dividing the player field. And then next we can create the display scores. So first I have text 1 equal to font dot render print the score 1 comma true comma white screen dot text 1 comma width comma 10. Then we have text 2 as font dot render score to true white screen build text 2 So first I have font.render. So this creates a surface with the rendered text, and then screen.build draws the rendered text onto the screen at the specified position. Next we have this refresh screen. To do that, I do the same for text 2 for one player 1, and for player 2. Next we have the refresh screen. So pygame dot display dot flip time dot clock, start the timer for 60 seconds. Then you have another condition for quitting the pygame. So pygame dot quit sys.exit. So for the refresh screen, this display dot flip updates the entire screen surface of the screen, making all our drawings visible. Then I limit this game to 60 frames per second, ensuring consistent speed across the different systems. And for quitting, I pass in the this quit and initializes all the Python modules that we initialized first in the first line, pygame.init, and then we release the system resource that's allocated for our pygame. Then we ensure we clean all the exit, and it will clear all the drawings, and then we also exit the system. So this module sys terminates the entire Python process. Now let's run the program. Terminal. Okay, I think I have an error. Let's go to line 33. Okay, this should not be a module, so let's rerun. Okay, I think I made a spelling mistake. Let's go to line 88. This is true. Okay. Oh, so I have another error. Okay, this should be bottom. Now I think, okay, so this is our Pong game. So for player 1, I move the, now for player 1 and player 2, we can adjust the paddle, right paddle and the left paddle. So we can see that the ball reverses whenever it hits the paddle. And we also have the scoring for player 1 and player 2. So yeah, that's it. We have created our ping pong game using Python. So please do try it out and let us know in the comments below. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.